So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on what time of the day you're tuning in your part of the world. And if you happen to be watching the recording, well, it'll be whatever time it is when you're watching this recording. So, first of all, can I welcome everyone who's joined us for this special educational property webinar? Let me say a massive, massive hello to Shiro and to Tom. How are you guys?
Hi, David. Very well. How's
Hi,
it going?
David.
Brilliant. Great to have you on. So, I will explain what tonight is about just in a second, but as normal sort of housekeeping, let me just emphasize this will be recorded. So it has been recorded, so we won't mention people's names if you put anything into the Q&A. Just on that, please do not use the chat box, otherwise we may not see it. But if you put it into the Q&A, we'll endeavour to answer any question that is raised. If the conversation has moved on and we don't want to just go back on it, then we can happily drop an email subsequent to the webinar and answer any questions that you have. So please feel free, put comments or questions in the Q&A, and if we don't mention it, don't panic. We will get back to you. So let's get into this straight away, around about 35 minutes. For anyone who happens to be on that doesn't know me, my name is David Johnson. I'm the CVO, the Chief Vision Officer of Prop Funders. And what is Prop Funders? Well, our mission is about saving property developers and investors time and money by simplifying, sourcing and structuring property funding. So that is who we are, that is what we do, and it's about bringing developers and investors together so that both parties get what they want out of the relationship. So everything we do is kind of with that mission statement. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. That's our motivation, helping fundraisers and investors link together to get what they want. For those that are on regular attenders, you'll know we have our own property funding podcast. There's a bunch of fantastic guests from all over the UK, all different types of property. So go on there if you want to do a bit of learning, out for a run, washing the car, cutting the grass, whatever you're doing, you can tune in. And I dare say I need to get Shiro and Tom onto this pretty soon. You just need to add your mug shots to the archive.
Absolutely.
Happily,
Well,
happily.
So we'll get that done in due course. So why are we here tonight? So this webinar actually was not one that was in the original calendar, but last Monday I actually flew across to Manchester to meet Shiro and Tom. I've known Shiro for a number of years, mention that in a minute, and had a look round the projects that Shiro and Tom are doing. Spent the day, must have looked at goodness half a dozen projects, some ongoing, some completed, and was really impressed with it. I just was really bowled over, not just by the different properties, some really fantastic properties in Manchester, but the quality of the finish and some of the things we looked at, the plans that the guys have for the future. They've just moved into new offices and it's certainly a company that's really got an energy about it. And I literally, as a throwaway comment to Shiro at the end, heading to the airport, was I'd love to get you on a webinar and do like an educational webinar. So here we are. We've went ahead and arranged it. So massive thank you to Shiro and Tom for jumping on. And yeah, let's really just get straight into it in terms of what we're going to do tonight. It's going to be focused on commercial. And initially, Shiro, Tom, tell me a bit about yourselves and a bit about SATIS, please.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, David, and thank you very much for inviting us and organizing this so efficiently. So we really do appreciate that. So just a bit of an intro into myself and Tom. So Satis Group, Tom and I set up the company about 5 years ago. We've both individually been in the property business for a very long time. We have a third partner, as you can notice in the photograph, who's my younger brother Sean, and together we make up Satis Group. I myself have been involved in the property industry since I was 18. Started doing buy-to-lets, HMOs, and I've been developing over the last 10 years. Tom?
Yeah, I was started in property straight out of university with a stint down in London for Fox and Estate Agents, and then came back up to Manchester where I was born and bred and been in property ever since.
So yeah, as I said, David, we formed the company about 5 years ago. Tom and I were actually old school friends. We've known each other since we were about 14, 15. And I've
Yeah.
always joked at like friends' birthdays or weddings, oh, one day we'll do something together, we'll do something together. And we kind of finally made it happen half a decade ago. And fast forward to 5 years later, and of course, you've seen some of the projects that we've been up to.
Yeah. Now, I think that's actually a very important point, Shiro, that you and Tom have known each other for a long time. I think the property developer landscape in the UK is absolutely littered with good people with good intentions who
Mhm.
jump into businesses with people they've just met.
Yep.
And then when the going gets tough or something arrives out of the woodwork that wasn't planned, there isn't that solid relationship that can see you through the tough times. But you two have known each other is one of the questions I asked. So I think that in itself is a very important.
Massively, and I think it's really important as well to have the same ethos and morals and values. And the three of us definitely have that, and we also importantly have complementary skill sets. You don't want, you know, three people in a business that all are, let's say, really good at X, and you need an X, Y, and a Z. And we're quite fortunate that we've got that between the three of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, in terms of some of the things that each of you have done, because at the end of the day, it's great that you both know each other a long time, but what have you actually done in property? Where's that credibility that particularly, we'll get into later on. You obviously operate in your funding stacks with, primarily private investors. You've built most of your business around private investors, and therefore, if an investor's having a look at you in terms of are you investable, it's like what have you done? What's your track record? So give me a quick overview of that.
Sure. So, as per the slide there, my first buy to let I bought when I was 18 in 2007. That building I actually still own today. We've had the same tenant in there for 18 and a half years. She's gone from having one cat to four cats. That's the only thing that's changed in that time period. And then I actually started doing rent to rent, David, quite a while ago. Got a property job for about 4 years. So worked for a local landlord in Manchester in an area called Fallowfield. Those that'll know where all the students live. Bought my first HMO while I was with him and really kind of learnt the HMO game. Did that for a couple of years. Got a portfolio of about 150 bedrooms, which was pretty decent at the early 20s. Sold that in 2016 and then started developing. The photograph there, the NatWest one, actually a funny story because I bought that building in 2016, converted it to 6 beds, and at the same time, Tom was actually working at a property sales company, and he actually helped me sell two of the flats. So we had a bit of a back and forward indirect relationship from many years ago, and then did our first multi-unit scheme in 2018. So I've been doing this a hot minute. It's not just been something that we've started a few years ago, and we've definitely seen the good, the bad, and the ugly over that period of time.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. And then Tom, you're
Um,
obviously slightly different, but just as experienced.
yeah, I was going to say I've been down a slightly different route to Shiro. I've had a number of property jobs over the past sort of 10, 15 years. So I started out at a state agency down in London, straight out of uni, hopped on the train and went for it. I came back up north a year or so later, and I was working in the private rented sector. So I was working for a sort of high net worth in Manchester. We were acquiring blocks of apartments from sort of 2007 to 2009 crash, and then trading those apartments out to buy to let investors and retail investors. As you see there, one of the transactions there in 2017 was a £10 million 100 apartment development project we did. So yeah, it was all exciting stuff. I then actually went and did, whilst I was working, I did a master's degree in real estate. So it was a pretty of a broad degree over 2 years whilst I was working, which covered everything from planning to finance to exits, legals, that kind of thing. So it was really a bit of a broad education. And then, yeah, as the next three images are, our first project was actually a PD, bit development project conversion of an office in Rotherham near Sheffield. And then the next one is a Folks mixed use, which is a large 23 apartment scheme with some commercial on the ground floor. And then finally, in 2019, I did my first sort of new build development, which was 8 luxury townhouses just local to here.
Brilliant. Okay, certainly. It's fair to say you just know your way around Manchester.
Yeah.
That's a good way of summarizing. And is it
Yeah.
fair to say that you only focus on Manchester, or do you get sort of sidetracked into
Yeah.
other cities nearby, or what's your focus?
No, I mean, previously in prior to starting the business, I did look at other locations, but we've got a sort of general rule, and we're only a small team, and we want to be sort of within half an hour, 40 minutes of each site that we do, and that's mainly from a management point of view. We like to be in control of things. If something needs doing quite quickly, we could hop in the car and we're there in half an hour. If we're
Mhm.
doing something, say over in Leeds or London, it's a full day out. So yeah, it's definitely more efficient.
Yeah. No, I think that's very much wise. I mean, being an absolute expert in your own city, as opposed to trying to spread too thin. And I think, yeah, I think there's a lot
Exactly.
of logic in
I
that.
actually, David, I actually made the mistake before Tom and I set up the business of buying a property in Birmingham about 10 years ago. And I learned my lesson the hard way that, as Tom said, because we're quite hands-on, we're not the developer to sit in the office 5 days a week, 6 days a week. We like to get out on site. After that transaction, I was like, I can't do this because if something happens, that's half a day gone, and it's just too far for us to go. So we kind of made the decision to stick local.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think also, as David touched on, we become sort of experts in our local area then. So when we're appraising sites or we're looking at exits on projects, we know roughly what those values will be without having to do too much due diligence on them. So yeah, it just kind of all nicely flows.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, on the screen there's your figures sort of speak for themselves, and again we'll send this deck out to all the attendees. So we'll not sort of spend too much time on this, but clearly you've got some big figures there in terms of what you've been involved in, what you've delivered, and I think that sort of speaks for itself. And then award winning. So will you just talk us through some of the recognition that which is always nice to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really something that we focus too much on, but it's nice to be recognized for the hard work. The project that we're going to talk about in a second was voted the best commercial redevelopment project of the year at the International Property Awards last year, which, as you're well aware, David, there's a lot of property awards, but these are kind of more corporate. So we were very,
Yeah.
very pleased to achieve that. And as you can see, YPN did a full 12-page spread on the project. We've had a couple of interviews on this, and I was voted one of the property disruptors in 2023, where if you look through the list, they've had some pretty big hitters on there. So very honored, but also, we've got a bit of a legacy to leave over the next couple of years. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, different organizations have their different award and recognition models. I think my take on this is these are the ones that you don't pay for in terms of
Yeah,
sponsorship. So,
absolutely.
these are the ones that you earn because you're delivering something on the ground and that's been recognized. Which I think speaks volumes,
Absolutely.
which is great. So yeah, so just we're going to just pick one or two past projects, and we really want to dive into St. John Street. But yeah, do you want to speak to this project?
Tom?
Do you want me to have a discuss this one? So yeah, so this was a project that completed, got 3 years ago now, in Davenport, which is a sort of suburb of Stockport, which is an area we focus quite a lot of our time on development wise. So as you can see, it's a lovely building. It's actually on a private road, which is a bit uncommon. So the property was purchased as a block of apartments. We then went through planning to amend that and increase the number of units. It actually involved completely excavating the basement to make some duplexes, which was a big job, and the contractor still hates us for the day because it was a tiring job for him. But as you can see, it's yeah, exceptional quality. So yeah, very happy with it.
Good, good. And
Uh,
then this.
this, yeah, this is, as I said, this is in the city centre of Manchester, just on Deansgate, which is, if you don't know Manchester, it's the sort of main thoroughfare through city centre. We acquired this a year ago. It is currently on site, and it is a part conversion, part two-story extension vertically, which is creating 12 luxury apartments for Manchester. So yeah, very excited about this one.
Good. Okay, okay. Which brings us on to what I really wanted to focus on tonight, which this is this sort of project that you have um, completed already, rock and roll, which is fantastic. It was great to see through it. I suppose first and foremost, why commercial? You're both very experienced in a whole range of different property development. Obviously,
Yeah.
different people have different opinions, but what was it about this commercial strategy that caught your attention?
Yeah, and so I think as you probably know, David, we are heavily focused on residential development and always have been. It's kind of our bread and butter, shall we say. The reason for us getting into commercial is obviously one bit of diversification, which is always sensible in business. And then also it was more of a market-driven decision. So the office market, particularly in the north of England, has been on its knees kind of obviously since COVID. Lots of tenants left the market, people working at home, etc. So we saw a gap in the market where we could come into the market, buy an asset that was, as you say, I would say below market value and in essence cheap, which makes the deal stack up very nicely. And then it was also a play on the market, and also because obviously we did the development to retain and for a long-term hold. So we feel the office market was at the bottom of the curve. It can only go one way, and that's with rents and also occupation. There's a big push at the moment, as probably everyone's aware, that staff companies want staff to come back to the office. So it obviously increases demand, which is what we want.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's interesting, and you've noticed that from obviously your own knowledge of Manchester. But if you go back, around COVID, it was like this huge shift about away from inner
Yeah,
cities, and people are never going to come back into inner cities. People are always going to work from home.
exactly.
It's never going to change. And then a couple of years later, the trend
Opposite.
does change.
Yeah.
Exactly that, and also particular types of offices, and we felt the serviced office market is one that is going to grow because, okay, companies don't need a big 5,000 square foot floor plate anymore. They only need 20, 30 desks because people are doing hybrid working. I think that is going to be around for forever, but people are probably doing 2 or 3 days a week in the office, some at home, and they work on a bit of a rota. So you don't need as much space, but what they want is quality. So they're happy to spend the money, but they want something that is fully fitted, ready to go, and just nice spec basically.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and sure, if you want to comment on this, that thinking of the education side of this webinar, that developers and in any industry is the same. You can't just be thinking about what is my strategy today or what worked last year, the year before. I think that those who position themselves well in market trends can almost predict the future. And yes, there's a degree of a gamble, but
Of course.
what you're saying is early on you realized actually business people we know it's changing. They want their staff to come back in to
Correct.
be maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and therefore there's going to be an evolution of the working practice, and
Yeah,
you position yourself to take advantage of that. Is that fair?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And there's another element to this as well, which is we are living in what I call a Deliveroo generation. And what I mean by that is that we're of the generation now where tenants are happy to pay a premium for a premium product.
Hmm.
If you go to Tesco and buy some tomatoes and pasta, you can make food at home, but people choose to buy something on delivery which is 5 times the price because it's easy and it's convenient. The same
yeah,
same kind of mentality. We thought, well, actually, if we do a really high-end premium product, kind of build it and they will come, and that's exactly what's happened. We are, you'll see in a second, one of the most expensive office buildings in Manchester, and we're almost full. Why? Because people are willing to pay a premium for that kind of product.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good takeaway. Okay, so I think this is some of just a couple of the sort of competitors that are out there. I think I'll just flick through these quite quickly.
Yep.
Um,
So I mean, these two are they were the inspiration for us buying this building. The building on the left is a building in Mayfair, which is like a high-end West End members club, which you'll see we've got a few features that we've nicked from there. And the developer on the right, William, who's I know fairly well, he's doing some really interesting things in the world of co-working and serviced offices. And we've kind of combined the inspiration from those two to produce what you'll see in a second.
Brilliant. Okay. Um, so yeah, again, part of the race, all right, having a strategy, but there has to be some opportunities within the market. So do you want to just speak to what made this
Uh-huh.
situation, this market work?
Yeah, so really interesting. So this building actually sold to somebody who failed to complete after 12 months. And it's really interesting. I hear a lot of people talking about, they're struggling to find deals on the market. And I always say that you're never going to get a deal like a Christmas present, nicely wrapped up with a nice bow tie, bow and nice wrapping paper ready for you to unwrap. It very rarely happens. You have to make the deal happen. And what happened with this one is it failed to sell. Tom, who heads up our sourcing within the company, kept in touch with the agent over a period of a year, and we were basically ready to pounce at the right time. he rang him and said, "Look, these buyers are messing around. The owner of the building wants certainty and they want a quiet sale because they just want to get it off their books, and they're looking for." A guarantee really rather than price. That people always obsess about, well, price, price, price. Price isn't always the motivation for somebody selling. Sometimes people just want, I just want this off my books and I want it gone. So we came and said, look, we'll offer you 2.2 million. Will you accept it? They said yes. So we essentially got £500,000 off the asking price. It'd been empty for 2 years. It was an unwanted building. And we were kind of like, let's buy this and then kind of figure out what we're going to do later on. And that's obviously when the idea came with the office.
Hmm. Again, thinking of education, at what point did this property come on your radar, and how long was that until you actually purchased it?
Was it about 13, 14 months, Tom? I think originally when we went
I'd
to
say so. Yeah, we obviously got offered it. We knew the agents who were selling it, and just stayed in touch with them really. And then yeah, towards the end of the transaction that failed, they got in touch with us and asked us
Yeah.
to
But it's
sort
it's
of
it's it's really important for those that are looking at buying. Like you've got to stay in touch with these people because they'll forget you in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. It's all about communication.
exactly. Keep
Yeah.
reminding them of who you are, what you do, and be able to perform when somebody else doesn't perform. So
Yeah,
important.
and that's exactly what I was trying to sort of draw out there a bit. That from the hardest thing to teach sort of maybe people get involved in this space. I mean, this is very much, the high end, very much the who you know, but it's about relationships. Because you've been in Manchester, the way I see it, you've been in Manchester so long, you've got a track record of doing deals of, if you say you're going to buy something, you buy it. You don't let people down at the
Exactly.
last minute.
Yeah,
That credibility then means that when these type of opportunities come up, you're able to step in and deliver. And
And
that's very
absolutely.
often where the margin is.
we're also making our agents' life easier because when they present to us as a buyer, they know in the back of their head, we're only going to get paid our one, two, three, whatever their percent fee if the transaction goes through. So
Yeah.
buying a property is not just offering and having an offer accepted, is actually getting through to it and getting what I call MIB, which is money in the bank for the vendor. Until that happens, the agent's not going to earn their commission. So we're actually
Yeah.
making their life easier by being a credible buyer and somebody that they can rely on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if any of the attendees want to make a comment or ask a question, stick it into the Q&A, and we'll gladly put it to the guys. So again, I'm going to just flick this very, very quickly because we can see this when it
Yeah,
comes. But you
Yeah,
obviously had a good look around the
just
competition of what's
market
actually in
research. Yeah,
Manchester, all different levels. Some more sort of serviceable working, others then a bit more high end. But so advantages then, what was the advantage of the sort of the commercial side of this, but this particular project, what were the advantages?
Yeah, so I think for those that know Manchester, as Tom mentioned, it's just off Deansgate, which is the main strip in Manchester. So for us, you've heard the term David trophy asset.
Yeah.
There are certain areas in the country where people talk about trophy assets. For us, this has been a trophy asset. So we did a bit of a Richard Branson and kind of bought it and then figured out what the hell we're going to do with it afterwards because of the location, the price that we got. The advantage of commercial, very, very simply, is because we're going from commercial to commercial. There's no planning. I don't need to bore your audience with what the issues are with planning. We're all very well aware. And of course, in our world, time is money. So no planning was a big, big, big plus for this particular asset. As I mentioned, prime location, and there's no structural work. So essentially, David, this was a very big tartan turn for those
Yeah.
that are doing, BRRs and flips. It's just the numbers are slightly bigger, and it was essentially a cosmetic refurb. You'll see from the photographs that Tom will go through just quite a large cosmetic refurb. But
yeah,
nevertheless, obviously, we took the risk in doing it and, ended up with a lovely product. But massive advantages, the planning being the biggest one. No planning required.
Yeah,
yeah.
and you mentioned at the end there again, me sort of wearing my investor hat, a 12-month turnaround, which then helps with a very high return on investment, which is key for investors.
Massive. And
Exactly.
we talk about ROI. Well, actually, we've coined a bit of a new term, which is ROTI, which is return on time invested. So people talk about the returns, but actually, because we were able to turn this around within 12 months, as you're well aware in the resi market, that's very, very difficult. You have to have all the stars aligned quite nicely to get to that stage. So the fact that we were able to, I think we bought it in September, we finished in July. So what's that,
Hmm.
9, 10 months?
9 months.
That's
Yeah.
like unheard of. It's super quick.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you want to this was the before.
Yeah, so it was previously a solicitor's office. So it was, I mean, imagine sort of a 1990s fit out. It wasn't nice. They'd painted some very funky colours throughout as well, which was a bit strange. And you'll see as well the middle picture there of the ground floor. They tiled over the floor, and you'll see afterwards what it actually looked like.
Yeah. So again, there's
Yeah, so as Shiro said, it was really just a really cosmetic. We were kind of we went back to brick. We only went back as far as plaster in most places, which helped with the speed of doing the project as well. So yeah,
mhm. Yeah, there's just some examples, so you can look through there, and then hey presto, a few months later.
finished article exactly. So um, a lot of design work went into it, and it's one reason we actually enjoy this project quite a lot because with the residential stuff that we do, we don't tend to get too much involved with the design. Whereas with this, it was very much touch and feel what the flooring was, what everything looked like. As you can see on the bottom picture in the middle, we ripped up the tiles that somebody had laid down, and lo and behold, the original floor was there from the late 1800s when the building was built. So yeah, the spec was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go back and remind people
Yeah,
you
middle
see
one there.
there's the
Yeah,
tiles that Tom's talking about, and then when
how
they
how you
were,
can do that?
and
Crazy.
then yeah, that's phenomenal. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
such a feature. When you talk about being a trophy
honestly.
building, sure. I mean, to have that floor that age
Yep.
Yeah,
is phenomenal.
And
Like,
and
as you
it
know, when you came, it's the first thing we talk about when we enter the building. You enter it and you go, "Wow, what a floor!" Like that would be. I don't even want to guess how much that would cost to do today.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
definitely didn't want to remove it.
yeah, and you made the point earlier that, and I mean, I love your attitude, Shiro, on this. It's one of the reasons why I love sort of your projects and that we work together in terms of bringing you investors. Is that your mentality is very much we're one of the most expensive because people want quality. There's a section of the
yeah,
market that always want to go the cheapest,
yeah,
absolutely fine,
Right. Yeah,
but there's a section of the market that will pay for quality, and you clearly are
exactly.
delivering quality.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say as well, a lot of that was location driven. So when we did a lot of our market research around Manchester and we were looking at serviced offices and comparing each site to each site, some offices were more suited towards a sort of design world. Some are more corporate, and because of where the building is in Manchester, it's very much it's right next to the courts. We're surrounded by barristers. It used to be sort of the Harley Street of Manchester as well. So a lot of medical companies. So that's why we spec'd it up because we knew these companies could afford it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, there's some other examples to find. Again, I was really impressed with the finish. I just loved it. And these serviced office type places, I think they're when you arrive into them, it's almost like, yeah, I'm here to work. I'm here to get something done. I'm here to achieve. I'm in a professional environment, and it just the atmosphere was fantastic. Even just meeting people in the corridor and around the communal kitchen areas, there was just a real buzz about the building, which was fantastic. So, um,
These are just some of the floor plans, and it's also worth noting. You know, you talked about quality. There's definitely a relation. A what's the word? A not inverse. The direct relate correlation. That was the word. There's a direct correlation between the quality of your refurb and the quality of your tenant.
mm,
The quality you've seen
Exactly.
yourself, David. You know, one of the tenants is a 300 million pound a year turnover company. I mean, you're not going to get much better than that in terms
yeah,
of there's a
yeah.
reason they picked this building is because of what we've done. So that's the ground floor with the reception area, and then we've got on the first floor a couple of rooms. There you go, one A to one F. You've got the communal area in the middle, and then a conference room, and then the second floor is pretty much the same, just topsy turvy in terms of the communal space. So it's about 12,000 square foot, and we've got Zoom rooms, communal rooms, kitchens, etc. And then in terms of the figures, I'm sure everybody wants to know the figures.
Yeah, we're going just on coming to the figures. One thing again that I've really noticed was even things like the bathrooms, really high standard, high
Yeah,
quality. You know,
yeah,
it was just you've really thought this through and you've made sure that you've delivered what you're saying you want to deliver in terms of a high end product.
Absolutely.
yeah,
So you can see that the budget on the left-hand side that we've got. So total budget was about 4 million, and you can see overall we spent 4.3. And the reason that I've added the last column in, the green is when we spent under budget, and the red we spent over budget. You can clearly see that the biggest issue we had with this building is, do you remember the Liz Truss 3 or 4 months disaster that we had when all the interest rates went from, what was it? I can't remember, 1% to like 3, 4% pretty much overnight. That's what happened while we were mid the way through buying this building. And you can see here the budget for the interest was just shy of 400K. We ended up spending 600K. So nearly what, 50% more on the interest than we should have through no fault of our own. But you can see we were only actually 7% over budget. So overall, considering we've never done commercial before, I would say that was a relatively decent success.
Yeah, very much so. One of the attendees has just asked, so before I forget, I'll throw it in here. They've said amazing project. Will you also be running the business too? Which is a really good question. So this service office, there's a degree of speciality required. So how do you manage it?
Yeah, so we split it up into two parts. So from a lettings point of view, yeah, we absolutely manage that. And we instruct local agents, office agents to sort of source tenants, find tenants on our behalf. And then we deal with the management of those tenants throughout the year, collecting rent, etc. And from a building management point of view, we actually employ a specialist company because it is quite a particular industry. There's lots of regulations to follow, fire risk assessments, all that kind of stuff, health and safety. So we outsource that at a cost. So yeah, that's the way we do it.
Okay. The day I was with you, and obviously I'd brought sort of a high net worth investor to meet you on that
Yep.
day, and you went through a presentation in the boardroom, which was quite cool. But you obviously had the normal spreadsheets of huge detail and right down to the decimal points of returns and all the rest of it. So I mean, that information is all there if anyone would
Yep.
want to happen to see it. But this is like the summary
Agree.
of
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
of that,
Absolutely.
which was
Absolutely.
good. So that's on that. Yeah, and then speak to the values.
Yeah. So then, if kind of fast forward, we got it valued. I think it was last February, was it, Tom? February
Yeah.
24 at 7.4 million. So £3 million profit, which is great. And just to kind of tie up something Tom said before, when we originally bought the building, we were actually looking at buying it and selling it. That was the original plan, to buy it, develop it, and sell it. But because we did so well on the Val, we've actually decided to keep it long term. So we've managed to refinance it and just keep it as one of our trophy asset portfolios for obvious reasons. So, you know, it's been an amazing return for us and our stakeholders and our investors, who are, of course, very, very happy. But more importantly, well, as importantly, we've got some really good quality tenants and a fantastic asset in a fantastic city, that will hopefully, be able to return us a decent return for the years that we own it. So we're very, very happy, and the numbers kind of speak for itself.
Brilliant. Okay. Um, Obviously we mentioned earlier, you've
Yep.
obviously this property itself then was heavily featured. Um, and I dare say you're very happy with this one. You're very pleased with how it's
Yeah,
turned out.
I mean, Tom and I between us have built, like you see in the stats, nearly 500 units between us. So this is kind of the jewel in the crown of our current portfolio.
Mhm.
And you've been there, we're very proud to bring investors and stakeholders to come round and see what we've managed to create. So yeah, it's heartwarming to actually get recognized for that at such a big stage. And hopefully there's many more to come.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of sort of comments then and Q&As there. So in terms of takeaways, what in this project um, did either you find surprising, or what was the biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Tom?
I suppose surprising was the speed. I think we didn't appreciate how quickly we actually could get the project finished and income producing.
Yeah.
Obviously, being residential focused, we've had stuff that's been stuck in planning for years, issues with building regs, everything. So the speed from actually starting work from the design point of view and actually finishing it and handing the keys back from the contractor was, yeah, incredible.
Okay, good. Then I suppose the obvious question is the future. What has this whetted your appetite then for this type of project. I know you said that residential has been your bread and butter,
Yep.
but this obviously, how much has this changed your strategy going forward?
So interesting, we're probably now at about a 70-30 split. So 70% resi, 30% commercial. We're now currently on our fourth commercial project. So we've done another two in one in the city and one out of the city. And we've just actually secured another site, very, very similar size and similar building and similar location to this particular one. And we're looking at kind of replicating the model. Of course, like with anything in life, the first one you do, you kind of make the macro and micro mistakes. And we've kind of learned from that, and hopefully you're going to be really efficient with the next one. So yeah, we're kind of really excited for our next project that's coming up over the next few months.
Brilliant. Okay. And in terms of your normal funding, because that was a conversation we have had over the years, Shiro, with the different projects
Yep.
we've chatted about, and you're obviously part of the Developer Club, TDC. You're one of the founders of that, and you operate with so many fantastic developers of all different sizes within the SME market. So, in terms of your funding model, how you mentioned you have another project coming up, for instance, and
Yep.
then you have this project. So, what's your normal capital stack?
Yeah, so we normally we operate a equity model. So we basically JV with private investors, and those private investors provide the equity that are is enables us to buy and develop these kind of assets. So our funding model is quite simple. We generally borrow around 70% from the bank, and then 25% comes from private individual investors. And Tom and I put in the final balance 5%, and we just do a profit share. So, it's quite a standard equity model that, most of your attendees will be very well aware of. We're also quite particular about who we work with. It's a two-way street. We like to do our due diligence on the investors as they should do with us. But I think we're quite unique because of both Tom and I's deep-rooted history within the city. We are very fortunate now that we are getting deals that are completely off market and will never see the light of day in terms of right move. And we're able to pounce on them, and because of our credibility, buy them very quickly and then do exactly what you've just seen today with these kind of assets. So we're really excited for the future and really excited to welcome new stakeholders and investors to our company.
And you indicated there that you would always put at least some money in, some skin in the game, so to speak. So
Absolutely.
it's very much about partnering with investors, not just going out with a begging bowl looking for investors to take the risk that you also invest in your own deals.
Yeah, and we always try and look at it's easier to understand somebody when you look at it from their point of view. So,
Hmm.
say if I was an investor, what would I want the developer that I'm JVing with to do? And one of the questions is, well, guys, what's your skin in the game? And it's a very valid question. So we typically put in between 5 and 10% of any equity requirement from ourselves. And that kind of ensures that from an investor's point of view, they're kind of like, the guys have got their own skin in the game, as you said, David, and it's not just a one-way street from an equity point of view. It's
Hmm.
important.
And thinking about sort of commercial, and again, I know you've got a number of projects on the go, and we saw some phenomenal properties and location. Um, sometimes in commercial, you can buy the building, which very often, if it's inner city, can be an eye-watering amount to
Yeah.
some developers and investors.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there's an opportunity to lease buildings on a long-term lease, which
Yeah.
allows you
Yeah.
to literally just like turn them into a cash cow without having the huge outlay. Is that a model that you look at as well
Yeah, so
sometimes?
we're actually we've just secured a site, exactly what you've just said. Your attendees will all be aware of rent to rent. We're all pretty au fait with what that is, and we've coined a bit of a new term called lease to rent, which is actually a model that's very common, which we didn't know until recently in the hotel industry. So I don't know if you're aware that most hotels in the UK, the operator, let's say Premier Inn or Holiday Inn or whatever, or Hilton, they don't own the hotel. So that picture that you're seeing now, the slide, you can see the Hilton Hotel on the right hand side. They don't own that building; they just lease it off the landlord. So we've actually now secured a new site where we've leased the building off the landlord instead of purchasing it, and we're just basically going to be putting in the capex, the capital expenditure. And as you said, it just ends up being a really nice cash cow without having the one could say headache of purchasing the property. We're just controlling the property, and having the same benefit, but without the high capital expenditure of purchasing it, stamp duty, legals, etc. So it's a really good model. We've done it 4 times before in the resi, sorry, 3 times before in the resi space. The principle is exactly the same.
Brilliant. Okay. Look, I think that's been a really fascinating look into your model, into what you've delivered, and then what you're looking to do going forward. As I always say, when good people get together, good things tend to happen. So certainly, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on tonight on an evening
No, thank
with
you.
families and stuff. But that's really really appreciative. So just as I wrap up from this, obviously, those that are familiar with prop funders, you can go on our site and there's a whole bunch of free education resources, different webinars, educational webinars, community webinars, etc. So feel free to have a look there. And if anyone wants to either ask some questions about what you saw tonight, or just want to have a chat about prop funders in general, then you can book a free 30-minute chat with me there. There's the wee bit.ly link. I'll give you a second to grab that. If there's any last minute Q&A questions, drop it in as we're finishing. I'm going to let Tom and Shiro give sort of one tip, one takeaway about high-end commercial property. So put you on the spot a little bit, but there you are. Just one tip.
I'll show you go first.
It's just one of those things, you have 1,000 things in your head, and then when somebody asks you the question, they all filter away.
See that
One tip for
this.
commercial, I would say one of the USPs that we've got is the service that we offer at the building. So coming back to what I said about the delivery generation, we're offering a service that's slightly higher than other competition, but allows us to generate about a 20% uplift in rent. So if you can give good service, people will pay for it.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
that.
And and that's it. We've seen that, just to add on to that, we've seen that in the build to rent sector. Some of these build to rent schemes now have got, unbelievable amenities and people are paying for it.
yeah. I think to add to that, I think in terms of differentiating between high-end serviced office and the sort of lower end of the market, the main thing is space and having enough room in the office for space. And in terms of desk sizes and that kind of thing, you find a lot of time in the sort of lower end, people are crammed into small offices. It's all about space and making sort of the work space enjoyable for people to use.
Mhm. Excellent. I love the way when I asked the question, Tom got in first and went, Cheryl, you can go first. Yeah, but I like that. I like that.
That's
There
the
we
thing.
are. Well, look, again, thanks everyone for joining. There's my details for those. I know most of you know me anyway. You're part of the community, but you can get me there. But again, massive thank you to the guys, and I'm really looking forward to maybe having you back on again. And we'll look at some of your projects you have coming up. And no doubt we'll be working together on a few things going forward. So really appreciate that, guys. Thanks very much. And everyone else,
Absolutely.
take care,
Thank you.
and you'll get the recording emailed out to you tonight or tomorrow if you're on the webinar here tonight. So take care, everyone. All the best.
Thanks, David. All the
Thank
best.
you. Thanks, David.